Hello, 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 and welcome. Turn on your sound. We have a fantastic show for you today. Today we are going to be talking about why your business plan ought to be inspired by grand designs. You know the program all about the fantastic houses. So this is an opportunity for you to build a business that's as fantastic as some of those houses that you see on Grand Designs. Okay, we're going to get to that in a moment. First of all, for those of you who don't know me, let me introduce myself. My name is Doyle. I'm the founder of creativeflow.tv, where you get lots of inspiration, tips, videos and articles all about how to grow your business, how to grow amazing teams, and how to achieve the results that you want, the kind of success that you want to have in your creative business. So you are in the right place if you are a creative services provider, such as you're into web and graphic design, you're a photographer or into video production, filmmaking, all those kinds of things. And you know, really, I'm looking to share this information with people who are high action, people who, you know, they love to learn things and then to implement them, who are not afraid to ask for help but then go and implement the advice that they get and are positive minded and open minded. So if that's you, you are definitely in the right place, and please share this out with other people you know who are like that too. All right, so what we're talking about today, why your business plan ought to be like Grand Designs. I love that program. Do you like that program? Comment and let me know if you like that program too. I think it's great, and it's such inspiration in terms of just the different kinds of buildings that can be created that are so unique. And I was really struck one time, now this is actually going back a while, but for some reason it popped into my head this week and I thought, right, I want to talk about this. And so there was an architect and he said, to achieve simplicity, you need to work harder to hide all the gubbins, as he called it. Like all the pipework and cables and, all the things that make a house functional, that make a home a home. But I thought that was so interesting, and it's so true. If you want to have something that is really elegant, if you want to have something that really works well, it often does take more thought and more planning up front to get that to work really well for you, okay? So I thought, yeah, this really applies to business plans too, okay? Now, it can be really easy for people to throw a business plan together, and particularly if you've been in business for a while and maybe you're at the point where actually you've got a good steady income and, you may be looking to go to the next level. You might be sure of what to do or you're not. But you've done this before, and so it's easy to kind of regurgitate the same thing, or maybe not even to bother doing a plan because you're kind of like, well, I'm at this level, let me just carry on where I'm going. And of course, if you're at a different stage of your business, you're going to have a different focus, and we'll come back to that later. So here's four essential elements that I believe you ought to have to help create that kind of, simple yet really inspiring grand design for your business plan as well, okay? And so these things are that it ought to be elegant, okay? It ought to be authentic. It's got to be aligned, and I'll explain what in a few moments. And it also has to be implementable, okay? So if you think about an architect drawing up these plans, then they have to, the builder has to be able to take those plans and make them work for them, yeah? So, and you need to be able to do the same thing with your business plan. You have to be able to implement it, and also the people working with you need to be able to look at this and to be able to implement it too, right? Now, if you want to talk to me about that, I'll share that at the end about, how you can do that, and just check the first comment on this, and I'll have in there details of how you can have a chat with me, no charge, okay, about how you can get your business plans looking like this. But let me give you some more detail on that right now. Okay, so first thing, elegant. Now, who said this? everything should be as simple as possible, but not simpler. Do you know? If so, pop it in the comments and let me know what your thought is. I'll come back to that in a moment. And the idea behind this is that, you want to make sure that your business plan is lean and focused. Okay, you don't want to have any stuff in there that isn't needed. Okay, anything that isn't absolutely essential, that isn't driving you towards your vision and your goals, why would it even be in there? And this is the important thing that a lot of people don't consider. Okay, if you are doing things on a day-to-day, people, your business partners, your team members, then if they are doing things that isn't in the business plan, why are they even doing them in the first place? Okay, it was really easy for people to kind of carry on doing things because that's the way they've always been done, or they think it's the priority. And your business planning process is a great opportunity for you to get really clear on what your priorities are. Okay, so you want to make sure it's lean and focused, and you want to make sure that, as I said, everything ought to be as simple as possible, but not simpler. And this is really important when it comes to, people like you and me, us creatives who, sometimes we can be a bit head in the clouds and maybe we're not so great at the detail. And that's the thing, is that we can't make it so simplistic that people, including you, don't know what to do with it. Make sense? Okay, hit the like button if that makes sense, all right? Okay, so who said that quote? Everything should be as simple as possible, but not simpler. Well, it's been attributed to Einstein. Okay, I did a bit of research on this. It's not written down anywhere, but he's been quoted as having said something along those lines. So it's been attributed to him. But there's been many people over the years who have said this or something along these lines. And I think it's because it's a pretty profound statement and pretty true as well. Okay, so the second part of how to have your business plan be inspired by grand designs is that it has to be authentic. Now, maybe it's just you in the business, or maybe it's you and business partners and our team members, but regardless of that, for the people who are, running and driving the business, it has to be authentic to your vision. Okay, it's I kind of feel like, a business and the kind of the brand of a business, the brand experience of a business, thanks for the likes, keep them coming, has got to be kind of coming from the inside out. Okay, so it's got to be really you. That is coming through that. And I've talked about this before in terms of how to differentiate your business and various other shows that I've seen. And by the way, I do this every week. If you haven't been watching, check further on my page and you will see those other shows as well. And so the thing is that you need to make sure that your business plan is meaningful to you. Otherwise, why it's just going to be a paper exercise, right? And by the way, speaking of paper, I'm not talking about the kind of business plan that you would use to get funding. I'm talking about a working business plan that helps you and anyone else in the business to understand and know how to prioritize and what you ought to be doing, at any one time, right? So the business plan has to communicate your vision, and it has to have objectives that actually mean something to you, and that looks at running your business in ways that are aligned to your values, and that only shows up in people's behaviors. Okay, so otherwise values are just kind of like these, statements that, oh yes, well, we value trust and honesty and integrity. Well, look, pretty much most people do. So it's about, well, what does that look like in your business in terms of the behavior? So these are the things you actually need to be building into your business plan, particularly when there's more than just you, because you've got to be communicating, well, what's that brand experience going to be like for people within the company and for our customers as well. Okay, so to make sure that that authenticity goes through your business like the writing on a stick of rock. Okay, So the third essential element is to make sure that your business plan is aligned. Now, there's a few different kind of aspects and ways of looking at how your business plan can be aligned. So the first is it has to be aligned to where you are now and where you want to go. Okay, so there's no point putting together the kind of business plan that is for somebody, you know, that where the business maybe has got different departments, like there's a team for each department. But if you're, you know, a solopreneur looking to build your first team, then the steps you're going to be focusing on taking are going to be very, very different. Okay, so if you look at creativeflow.tv/services, I have a great big graph on there. In fact, I'm going to be turning that into a quiz that help people to see, well, what stage am I at and what are the kind of things I need to be looking at, okay? So you can check that out, and maybe someone would be kind enough to pop that in the comments for me. If not, I'll pop that in afterwards. And so the thing is that you want to make sure that you're aligned to the right steps for the right stage of your business. You also need to be aligned to make sure that you and any business partners that you have are all in alignment, that you're working towards the same vision and the same values. And you've got to make sure that the strategies and the business model that you've chosen to be in your business plan are reflecting and aligned with the natural strengths of you, any business partners and collaborators and your team, okay? And finally, you know, you need to make sure that filters down then through into the actual the projects, the processes, the systems, you know, the kind of the way that you do business on a day-to-day basis. That has all got to be in alignment. Okay. So the final thing that we talked about is about being implementable, okay? Your business plan must be implementable. Otherwise, it's just a piece of paper and nothing is going to happen with it. So you need to make sure there is enough detail. So remember, simple as possible, but no simpler. So there has to be enough detail in it that you actually know what you are doing. You know, what are your priorities each month? What are your priorities each week? And then you know, when you get up in the morning, you know what you've got to be working on. You know what your key measures are. You know that you can then review and assess. And do you need to tweak things? Do you need to tweak your actions and behaviors, or are things going great? You know, what's working, what isn't? You know, to be able to look at all of that, you have to have enough detail in there to make that work. And then you also want to make sure, of course, I know this sounds really obvious, okay, but you know, particularly when I was in corporate life, you know, quite often there were plans and strategies that, you know, at the front line, they just did not make sense. So you need to make sure, you know, particularly if it isn't just you and you've got one or more teams, that the plans you're putting forward actually make sense to those on the front line. Okay, they will know what's going on. I don't know if you've ever seen that thing of an iceberg, and this is based on research, and it shows that the people at the top of an organization, and this is kind of thinking corporate level, but even for an SME, okay, if you've got maybe 50 staff or 100 staff or something, you know, this will still apply. So I think there was like, I don't know, 4% of problems were identified by the people at the top, but as you went through each level of the hierarchy, the people on the front line knew 100% of the problems because they were facing them every day. They're kind of, you know, interacting with your clients and your suppliers and all of that. So make sure that it makes sense, okay? And I think the other thing is don't confuse a promotion with a business plan, okay? A promotion is a one-off thing that you want to use to scale your results. And when I'm talking about scale, it's funny. I was featured in a podcast recently, and the person was talking about how they're a bit fed up with the word scale, and I think it's used a lot. But really, you know, a promotion is designed to scale. It's taking what you already have and increasing it. Okay, so it's not necessarily doing something new. It's taking something that already works and making it work better. And so the thing is that that's really what a promotion is, what a campaign is, that is going to, you know, accelerate and expand the results that you're already getting. But a business plan is looking at all the different aspects of your business and what's going on and where you're heading to. It's a bigger picture, but translating that into implementable actions, okay, for you and any other people that might be in your business. Okay, so So here's what we've talked about. We've talked about your business plan being inspired by the grand design, so that, you know, to achieve simplicity, you need to work harder to hide all the gubbins, okay, to have something that is actually really elegant and authentic, and that's aligned and implementable, and you've got to put that work in. Okay, so think about, do you have a business plan? And if you have a business plan, does it meet these essential elements? Is it something you're referring to on a daily and weekly basis? And if not, why not? There's something missing there, or maybe there's too much stuff there and you need to actually cut things away. So if you want to, you know, find out more about that, then have a look in the first comment, okay? So I'm going to pop it in there, a link where you can have a 15-minute appointment with me, okay? Now, get in quick, okay? Because I'm not going to be offering these to everybody. So make sure if it's still up, then you can book that in with me. And the thing is that you know, sometimes it really helps to have a bit of a sounding board and to have somebody who understands, well, what are the right strategies for you? What are the right steps for you to be taking in your business at this time? So I'll be happy to have a bit of a chat with you about that. So have you found today's show to be of value? If so, please share this out with your, you know, peers, with your colleagues, you know, with your contacts. So hit the share button, hit the like button, let me know what you thought. And please do comment, because I don't know you're here unless you comment. So as people are watching, and every time I finish this, it's like all these different people that, well, I can see there's an X amount of views, and the views are kind of getting bigger week by week as I'm doing the show. But I have no idea who's been viewing, and I want to know. I'm being a bit nosy here, aren't I? But that's okay. So let me know, you know, because quite often I bump into people and they're like, oh, great show last week. And I'm like, oh, were you on? You know, I had no idea. Okay, so share things out. Thank you for the likes and the loves, the hearts. That's fantastic. So I'm Una Doyle from creativeflow.tv. Check the comments for the link. Connect up with me. I'd love to have a chat with you. And yeah, have a fantastic week, and I will see you same time next week. Bye.